This is Eric, and thank you for joining the next installment of our Coffee for Content series on web publishing. I have with me Kevin Campbell, a career video producer and editor and head of his own video marketing company. I've known Kevin for years. We worked at several different ventures together over the years, and I wanted to bring him in today to talk a little bit about video editing, video production, the backdrop, the microphones. We had just had a conversation about the factory camera versus an external camera, and I'll let him get into that as well a little bit. So with no further ado, Mr. Campbell.
Well, thank you for the introduction. I'm waiting for the applause. Is the sign going to come off and on with the applause?
There may be a couple of emojis in the comment section.
All right. Should be applause up here. All right. Well, great. Thanks for inviting me on your program, and I hope I can bring some enlightenment to the people out there about a little of my experience in video and audio and how to market yourself visually online. So prompt me. What do I do next?
Well, so let's go. We'll have a particular order. So first, let's talk about the backdrop. What environment are you shooting in? What is the most? How can you take something that is clearly user generated and make it look slightly less user generated and more professional, so it's not completely just a raw clip shot like we're doing right now?
Right. Well, visually, you have two things. You've got the camera, you got the microphone, you got the backdrop, and of course your subject matter. So we'll break that down into a couple of steps here. So your backdrop, it really, if you're trying to be professional and present a professional image in a video, you don't want it to look like in the quarantine times, you've got the kids playing back there, you've got, library books, or you've got, random people wandering around. You want it to look as non-distracting as possible. Because in this day and age, when you're online, distractions are so easy to come by. So the fewer distractions, the better. So I strongly recommend some type of, first one is a physical backdrop you can put behind you. That's always going to be a little simpler and easier. I'm in my studio at my office right now, so I'm going to swing over here. You see I've got some green screen backdrops there, and you can easily buy fold-out green screen or fold-out white screen. If you don't want to mess with green screen is a chroma key process, and some of the software, the online software, will let you knock out that background that's green and put a different background back there. That's a different process, but the simpler way is that I would put a white backdrop or something that's non-distracting back there, as that's the easiest way to do it. And those kind of white backdrops are, $40, $50 on Amazon or B&H Photo Video or something like that. That's the first step. Make it as undistracting as possible. The second step is, we talked about cameras. So, well, let me finish up with the background, because chroma key comes up or the green screen background comes up, and I've seen some of the videos on LinkedIn and Google and what's the other one? The Zoom calls. I think Zoom has some background generators or something.
Sure.
They're okay. They can be almost as distracting, I think, as a rant. Like my studio here, there's a lot of stuff back there, so it's kind of distracting. And the lens of the camera kind of makes everything look in focus, so it looks like it's right behind me. It doesn't look like the mountains are out of focus back there. It's right behind me. The green screen effect that's in Zoom and all those online applications, it's okay. I would experiment with it. The trouble with green screen is it has to be well lit. You have to put lights on the screen back there in order to separate the background of the green from the foreground of me in front of it. So if you have a way to light that green screen, it will look a whole lot better in those applications. If you don't have the lights to make it look good, you end up with this fuzzy background that looks kind of amateurish, looks a little cheesy. So I would experiment before I would try to make something professional in front of clients or investors or something like that. You don't want to look amateurish.
Well, so Kevin, let me ask this. You have the chroma key, you have the green screen behind you. I mean, the most notorious green screen users are meteorologists, right? You see the weather in the morning, and he or she is pointing at the map, but they're looking at a monitor over here because there's nothing but that green behind them. So what kind of software tools are necessary to select an image or even in certain cases that looks like there's video going onto the chroma key. So what does that process look like?
Well, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on that sort of process. The live chroma key thing is a little more complicated and expensive than doing something in post-production where you're adding the key later with an image in the background in your editing system. Both are fairly complex. If you want me to keep it simple, then if you're going to use Zoom and the chroma key effects that are in Zoom, then you can select a background that would be back there. The television news weather thing you were talking about, I'd spent years in TV news, and that's done through a very expensive live switcher that's feeding one set of graphics, one set of a background or a graphic or a video, feeding into the switcher with the talent in front of a green screen, and they look at a monitor that's right out of the way, and they can kind of look at the monitor and know where to put their hands. That's a little too complicated. I think most people aren't going to mess with that. The other method is to do it all in post-production when you're editing. So you're just shooting green screen, and your editor will insert something back there that's like an office that's out of focus or something, or some kind of fuzzy thing back there, so it doesn't distract from the foreground. But if you're using an application like Zoom or Skype, does Skype have that chroma key insert, that background thing?
I haven't found one yet. I know Zoom does. I know Hangouts does.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. I haven't really dug that far into it. I actually think I think Skype does, because when I was just on there, they allowed me to pick a background or upload an image. So
Right.
you could go into your desktop or your downloads or your gallery, whatever, and you could pick something out of
Right.
there and then have that be your backdrop. So I do believe that is a feature.
So let me introduce you to a couple of good free online picture sources that you can use in your background. That you can you go through and kind of find pictures that might work with your business or the theme of what you're trying to talk about. There's a lot of really good fuzzy hallways and offices and things that'll look like you're actually in a professional setting rather than in your home office during the pandemic, or you're in some kind of like your car or something. So you can go to, there's a site called Pixabay. It's spelled Pixabay.com, Pixabay. They have free pictures. You can freely download it, freely use them on your marketing or anything. Another one's called Pexels, Pexels, Pexels.com. And there's a couple others. You can just Google free stock photos. It's what they're called, stock photos. So because you don't want to use something, just a Google search and find a stock photo, and it might end up being a copyright image from a stock source that they would send you a nasty letter if you use their picture without their permission. So you want to get something that's free to use at all times. So Google free stock photos or stock videos. I don't recommend putting videos behind you because that's really distracting, but you can get some nice pictures of whatever you think would look nice, a mountain or a stream, or,
A herd of cats.
a herd of cats would be wonderful. So go to those free sources that would give you a nice picture to put back there. And I think Zoom has some pictures they offer. I've seen those on some calls that I've been on. So that's not bad. But the key thing is, if you're going to do that, put a green screen back there and put a light. You can get some really inexpensive shop lights at Home Depot for $10. They're silver, kind of looks like a bowl, and it's got a light in it, and you can clamp it to something nearby and put lights on that screen back there, not on you, on the screen itself. So the screen has got a little bit more brightness to it. So in my case, what I'm doing right now, if you see my image, I have a window in front of me, and I've opened the blinds so that the natural light comes in, so I'm properly illuminated. But if I turn that off, it's going to end up making me look dark. So what you want to do in your room is make sure there's a light on you, a lamp or something that would bring up the illumination on you as well as the screen behind you. So make sure you take the effort, or like I said, go to Home Depot, get some shop lights that can clamp to a table or something and illuminate that green background.
Awesome. All right, that is really awesome advice. So now we have an environment that we can work with. We've got a backdrop that we feel comfortable with. You and I spoke earlier, and you said something that was pretty impactful about the lens. And I had asked you, is there a difference or a big difference between the factory camera that's pre-installed in my Windows 10 from Dell versus an external camera, and you had a pretty solid opinion about that.
Yeah, the cameras that are installed on your laptop or your desktop, whatever you get, the thing that makes the difference in an image is the lens itself. So this lens here that's on my desktop unit, it's maybe 50 cents for that plastic lens, and it's not going to give you a really high quality image. And I don't mean you have to go out and spend $1,500 on a lens. That's kind of silly for an online thing. But you need something that's going to have a better lens than the one that comes factory installed, or like your phone has that inexpensive little plastic lens back there. The image quality is just not, it's just not there. So I highly recommend spending maybe 50, $100 on a separate camera you can mount either to your the top of your laptop or your desktop. I just went online before this. Logitech has some really good streaming cameras that I recommend taking a look at. You can go online and see some YouTube videos of all the people that talk about Logitech cameras for online use. I personally prefer the C920, and I've recommended that to my clients that are doing online streaming. The C920 is a high resolution camera, but it's like $80 on a couple of different sites, Amazon and B&H Photo, that kind of thing. I don't go crazy. I mean, I've spent many thousands of dollars on lenses for things, but that's if you're making an image for television or feature film or something, then you spend a lot of money. For your website, when you're pretty much seeing it on a phone screen about that big, you do want it to be sharp and you want the colors to be good. So the best way to do that is with a better lens than the one that comes with your computer.
Awesome. That's great advice. And also I've seen some tripods, very inexpensive tripods with those flexible arms, so you don't necessarily have to mount it right on top of where your PC or your Mac is. You could put it in different places, and there's lots of options with the tripods as well.
Yeah. The tripod will let you do either mount the Logitech camera. The Logitech has to plug into your computer, so you have to still be near your computer.
Right.
If you're using your phone or your tablet or something when you're recording or on a call or something, then you can definitely put that camera on a little small tripod with the rubbery, twisty legs. Looks like War of the Worlds kind of tripod monster. Those are cool. And you can get that right. You can mount it so you have more of an eye contact with the person you're talking to, so your eyes aren't like looking all over the place for the viewpoint. So yeah,
Awesome.
I recommend the tripods. But
hey,
yeah.
Kevin, so how about this? We're coming up on 13 minutes. Can we make a part 2 here? Because I'd like to keep and this is something that the audience and myself will talk about later, but file sizes are an issue when you're uploading to social media, which this will be all over. So let's keep this at 13 and come up with part 2.
This is coming next. This is cool. Tune in. That's the next thing.
All right. See you in a minute.
All right.